Good evening, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. How you going? Just lost one. That's a good start. I hope that may have been... We're down to 4 now. Oh my lord. Everyone's gone. 3, we're going down. 2, 1. Oh no, I'm on my own. Alright, let's just get rid of that. Better. Right, good evening. James, good evening to you. John, sorry we're not going to see you tonight, but whatever you're doing, enjoy. I'm sure it's going to be a good one, mate. Luke, good evening to you. Wendy, hi. Good evening. Jim, good evening to you. On the UK travel. Yeah, I'm sorry, mate. You guys are spiking too much over there for our comforts. We are, you know what, us lily-livered British alike, we can't tolerate too much social connection with you guys when you're spiking like this. So get that spike down, we'll come over. Anyway, I hope you're well over there, and I hope you are safe and keeping very healthy. Michael, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. That's really great. I don't know what that is. Get off of there. There we are. Okay, I'm watching myself on from another channel, so I can sort of see really what you guys are seeing. So I've got my iPad and I've got the live screen. Fascinating times we're in. Tomorrow, apparently, the British are going to go on pub crawls and back to their holiday parks and everything else that they've been missing for the last few months. And I talked to a friend of mine who lives a couple of doors away. She's the owner of one of these great big holiday parks where everyone owns their caravans, and she's absolutely dreading it. She's pulling her hair out, wondering what she's going to do tomorrow. It's just going to be a nightmare. But there you go. It is what it is, and we are where we are. So tonight, a watercolour. And how to make a decent watercolour out of a bad photo. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment when we get started. But in the meantime, we're up to 10. I don't know who's sitting on the side, but if you haven't said anything on the chat before, people, by all means, please just pop in, put your name down so I know who's watching. That would be fantastic. You don't have to get involved otherwise. I have learned that a few of my students have been watching these and have kept very, very secretive about doing so. But if you are there and you know who you are, just put your name down and say hi. Derek, good evening to you, mate. It's nice to see you back. And to all my students that are or maybe watching, we are starting back on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. So my ladies who come on a Tuesday, look forward to seeing you then. And all my Wednesday crews, all 3 groups of you, as many of you are coming back. Not all of you are coming back, but quite a few of you are. The others will be joining us in a matter of weeks because they are just finishing the self-isolation and they're just waiting for things to settle down a little bit before they venture. Totally understand that too. It's going to be a bit of a tough one, but not tough, but really quite unusual because I've never actually taught physically from such a distance. So we've got to try and work out how that's all going to work. But I've got my little man Sam. He's coming in Tuesday and we're going to blitz that place solid. So that'll be fantastic. Good evening, Teresa. Nice of you to join us and great to be with you. Thanks for coming along. Okay, so I better stop gassing, I think. And yeah, just better stop gassing and start talking about the painting, I think. Right, before I start, I will have a little glug and get going. Now, my man Ben is not here at the moment. I'm sure he won't be far away. So I'm hoping the sound is where it should be. I hope it is. Look, everyone is very excited because they can go to pubs. But I'm just excited because I can go on a train. Yes, you can, but you need a great big dog muzzle to keep you in check so that you don't infect all those tons of people that are on the train with you like that. Something like that. Well, take lots of pictures and lots of good video, Luke. So I'm sure you are going to have a great time this weekend. Are you going anywhere in particular? Anywhere that you want to go? Roll on Wednesday. Yeah, I hope so, Wendy. I hope it's going to work out all right. I really am a little worried about it, got to say. But we shall see. We're up to 14 and I haven't even done anything yet. I've just been gassing. Okay, so why did I choose this photograph tonight? Well, I got to say that I was not stuck for an idea. That's wrong. We had this earmarked a couple of weeks ago to do, and partly the reason I didn't do it was there's a little structure in the foreground. I think it's a bridge, but it's almost a bridge that doesn't go anywhere because I can't see where the other side is. Now maybe you can. I don't know quite whether it's just totally overgrown and it is on the other bank at this point and we can't quite see it, or what. It sort of put me off doing it for a little while. Wow. Okay, Luke, that is a real trip. Good Lord. Okay, that's fantastic. They're going to be well chuffed and well pleased with that one. Yeah, so back to the picture. And Wendy will know this because we've both been on the train together and we've seen this scene and we've seen other ones and we've tried to capture it. Now, this is a photograph which is on a moving train and it's on my phone, and so for a kick-off the phone is an iPhone and it's got a very small sensor, so by default it's going to come out with a very crude photo when in terms of blowing it up, so it's not going to be the best. Secondly, there's a little bit of motion blur. It's a little bit undetectable, but it is there, especially if you look at the posts in the foreground. There is the blur, and it was not the best of sunny days, but I liked what I saw in terms of the oast houses way over in the distance. So I thought, why not do this and show how a painting can be enhanced. I don't want to use the word completely altered and lied about, but that's probably what I'll be doing. When I say enhance, I just want to move things about a bit, bring a couple of things forward. So I'm using the photo not to copy it, but to use it as the basis of an idea to create a landscape that ordinarily maybe does not exist. So hopefully you'll bear with me on that and we'll crack on. I don't know if this is going to be as long as some of the other ones that I've done, but you never know. We'll see. All right, okay, let's get on. So this is a nice big piece of paper. It again is a rough paper from Arches, and if I get enough lead working in here, so I'm going to look at my my landscape. Now, what also makes this a bad photo is the fact, if you look at it, that the landscape, or the line of the landscape, runs straight through the center of the picture, which is an absolute no-no. I'm going to try and stop this wobbling. In doing so, I'll just move something on the screen. Bear with me. We get rid of that. There we are. Right, just checking the chat. Okay, chat's not moved, so that's fine. All right, so yes, so the first thing is, as I say, this horizon line is way too in the middle, and from that point of view, is for people watching or looking at it, it's very hard for them to really get to grips with what's going on. So I've got a choice. I can either reduce it down or make it more. Well, I'm in favour. There's not too much other than the river happening in the foreground either. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce down the level of the horizon to somewhere about there, just as an idea. Excuse me. And I'm going to bring several tiers of fills. I'm going to bring another one in through here, which is a secondary or mid-ground. And we've got some trees on that line. Then we've got some shrubs or trees in the far distance. And I'm going to make them a little bit more than what they actually are. And over here, I really want to get in the essence of what I wanted. Now this is going to be a couple of oast houses here. And I'm just going to carefully draw those in a little bit closer, like so. And then you don't want to see too much of the bottoms of them, because you don't see too much of the bottoms of them. And another one right next to it behind it here, and it's going to be a sort of barn or something between the two buildings going off there, and then into some trees or something around here. So we get the essence of two lovely Kentish oast houses. That's if I draw them properly. Let's have another go. And just concentrating a little bit more. If you think I've gone a little bit mute, you'll understand why I'm being a little quieter, because I do need the funnels to be absolutely right before I get this. And I think that they are an angle which is a bit more substantial than I first gave them. I'll put the first one back in here, and then it's got the little bit of brickwork below it through there. Then the other one will come up like so and go off over the back. And then we have the lovely cowlings on top, which I'm just going to put in like so. Like that. And the little weather vane off the front, or whatever it is, rudder. I don't know what they call them, but whatever they call them, that's what it is. And there we have our little oast house. Just take that off. It looks a little bit silly. So I'm going to take that all the way through and let it dive into that shrub or bush in the distance. I'm going to put another one on the near distance here, which is somewhat bigger. So it's going to obscure the one behind a little bit, not too much. And then I want to, so I've enhanced this area here. That's fine, I've got no problem with that. I'm going to leave out all of those grain silos. Obviously they could be on the other side of the field. I don't really want them in. So what I want to do is, there is another building, I believe, behind this tree. So I'm just going to suggest that there is something here, and then another tree here. I'm really making this up as I go along now, because you know, we've completely divorced from the photograph, which is I did actually fully intend to do. I'm going to put a few trees on the distance here just to suggest some and a little bit of information. Another big one, say here, and a small one maybe next to it like this. It's not too dissimilar to other paintings I've done where I'm working with the Romney Marsh. Another one here. And that's the end of that sort of center contour of that film. A film field. Sorry. One of those. Long day at work. And I'm coming around here with the bend in the river. Now this is quite an interesting, because a lot of this river has had mudslides where you can see, well, I don't know if it's mudslides or whether it's erosion, which is obviously mudslides and water and erosion and in that way, but also animals break it down, cattle and what have you coming down to drink. But I can make this a little bit more than it is, so I'm going to bring that out a little further, which is also suggested, if honest, over in the photo. But of course there's a lot more foreground for this river to do whatever it wants to do. And I come in here with a big old bank like so, and bring it on down, and so we get our bend in the river. Let's put the other side in, and that comes way up high like so. Then we've got this big tree this side, which we can now put in and suggest it, and that will stop our audience from going off out of the picture. So we've got this tree here, and we've got this much bigger one in the foreground here. Now what do I do about this? I want to put it in, but I don't want it to look silly, and I can't make out exactly where it goes. I keep looking at it and I still can't decide. So I'm going to suggest this here. I'm going to suggest a bridge, first and foremost, like so. And I'm just going to bring it across like so, and put another wall in here. So I don't quite know if I can make this work, because it is not anything as the painting or the picture suggests. So I'm just trying to, in fact what I might do is make this arc a lot smaller, like that. I think that works a little bit. It's just a bit too big, too sweeping, and I still can't work it out, but I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to bring that down through there, so we've got that goes away. Now I'm going to make something of this side, but I'm going to put a lot of growth in here, coming down and maybe down even across here, so we lose that part of the bridge. So actually I'm cheating in a way that I can't see the information, so I'm sort of fudging it all out, as it were, and getting rid of it, because it's a bit of a nonsense and it won't actually work. So I'm just going to come through here and come in with this side of this riverbank that will come down under the bridge, so we make use of our bridge like so. And then I put the arc of the bridge there like that, and hopefully that makes some sense now. And I don't know if it does. It's quite possibly an old farm bridge which may have had a brick wall to it once upon a time, but has been long lost. I don't know. I'm just going to give that a much shallower draw there. Then some bushes here over the side of it, coming down under here like that. Hopefully we can make this work. Bit of trial and error. There's a lot of lovely green stuff going over here. Now just checking that the... Good evening, Mark. Nice of you to join us. We're a bit low on numbers tonight. I think everybody's getting ready for their beer festivals tomorrow, wherever they live. And put the edge of the water coming out through round there, which will look nice. And come down here with the bank, and it will come down and disappear behind this bank. So we really have created our little river, and we have got our back scene. And I'm just going to suggest that there are some other trees in a field, and let this contour start to go uphill a little bit through here. And that's very believable, because this is the London side of Ashford somewhere, not quite sure where. It could be even as far up as Paddock Wood Way. I'm not sure where I took this picture. I just kept looking every time I kept going to London. I kept seeing these and other oast houses, and I felt that I really wanted to try and get a picture. And every time I went to London with that thought in mind, it wasn't until I was on the train I realised I didn't have an appropriate camera or anything else. So I was forever trying to get this shot or one like it. So anyway, that aside, we're going to stop the drawing and we're going to start looking at the painting. I'm going to mix up. It's a very grey day, but if I put a grey day, it really cannot work. So I'm going to make it a nice summer day. So I'm going to change the sky, and I'm going to make it more. Oh, that's very corrupted. Let's clean that out. Bear with me. Let's just clean that cobalt out. It's got a lot of yellow in it, but it's a very dirty yellow, so let's get rid of that altogether. Right, have I missed anybody in the chat? No, I haven't. So let's come back in with some lovely cobalt blue. Make a lot of it. We've got a lot of area to cover, so don't skimp, because you'll find you're going to run out very, very quickly. So let's come in, keep mixing, put some more paint in there, more pigment. Not so much water. You can add water now. So you've got quite a bit going on in here. But if you want to change that colour as it comes down, then you do need to think about that right at the beginning. So let's just tap in a little bit of yellow. This is aureolin, and some more blue, and that's how you can see my blue gets corrupted, because I stick the yellow right in the middle of it. And we've got a dirtier blue. Now that will be a lot more water in there. We don't want that to be as strong as it first looks. So there's very, very little pigment to water ratio. So now let's look at our lovely scene ahead. Now, apart from these two oasts, everything else doesn't matter if I come through with the blues and the colours. Maybe a little bit of area in here to consider avoiding, but we can do that too. Okay, so let's come straight in with our sky. So the nice big brush, I could actually have gone a bit bigger than this if I was honest with you. And already I'm running out, I can see I'm running out of pigment. So let's just come straight back in. I always advocate I'm going to put my teeth in tonight. I always advocate that people always mix enough pigment. And often you don't do that. But if you use a thick enough, heavy enough paper, this bead will stay wet for the duration. for a long time. You can just keep coming in. You can be as gentle as you like. You don't have to go mad. You can drop in more pigment at the top and let that come on down. All these lovely things you can do, because this paper is very forgiving, only because it's very thick. If it was a thin, light paper, you would have an awful lot of trouble to do what I'm doing now. Okay, so I'm going to just come down and I'm going to come in with some other colour. Just a little bit more yellow in that blue. Let that come on down. There's a bit of dirt from an eraser. Get rid of that. A bit more yellow maybe. Just take that, come through. That could be a little bit too strong. In fact, I think it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a bit of red, a little bit of vermilion. Just chop that into place and let that come on through that colour. Let it play out the yellow. Don't want it too strong, but let that come through and let that enhance that yellow colour. I'm taking my time with this just to show you that you do have the option of taking your time with the flow. And come all the way down through. And let it work its way through this picture. Actually, I can come all the way through there because we're using a very warm roof, so that will work in my favour anyway, so I'm not too worried about the oast now. Now I'm going to change to some greens through here and let that carry on coming through. We can use that cobalt as a middle green. Let that come all the way down through here like so. We're going to have to use our hairdryer in a moment. I'm going to preserve around the edge of the water, so I'm just going to keep that nice and dry. Watercolour will only go where there is wet or damp paper allowing it to go there. Where it's dry, it will not flow. So that's something you can take to the bank and not worry about it. In fact, I'm going to come all the way through there, like so. I just lost that little bit of water at the bottom, but if I'm quick enough, I can take that out. It's no big deal. And in fact, that will be in shadow anyway, I've just seen, so it's not going to worry me a bit. I can change these greens. I can move and add some oranges into them, make them a little orangey through the center ground, like so. Let that come all the way down. And this is really just my first pass. There you go. Nice collar dives out the window, allowing a serenade for the evening. There we are. So we got this lovely colour going on. Alright, now that's as far as I can do. This is quite an obvious stream of blue, and I'm not quite happy with that. Not 100% sure about it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mix up another lot and see if I can't repair that and get rid of the problem. I'm going to come in with another layer of cobalt blue, like so. Bring that all the way through, and like you would do if you were spraying a car, you take your brush over to the end all the way through and let that come through. I'm going to give it a little bit more of an angle. Sometimes the shallow angle doesn't work in your favor too much. Just going to give it a little bit more room to flow while this other color is still damp. Now I've got to be careful that this doesn't turn around and bite me, which it quite easily can do. I'm just working it through. And that's just giving me a little idea to give some striation cloud to the back here. So I'm going to just literally put in a couple of lines like this, which are often seen as sort of clouds, low clouds, into those lovely areas through there. I'm going to bring that one through there. Now you can see we really are just making this picture up now, or at least I am. But there's a lovely soft bleed on there, so I quite like that. I'm going to let that do that. Now it might really work against me, because if this is too wet and this is too dry, we're going to get some awful cauliflowers happen. And then I'm stuck. So you'll have to accept my profuse apologies as I put myself upon my blunt sword by apology. Judy, good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Not a problem being late. The fact that you're here is good enough. Right, I'm going to let that dry off. I'm going to just take the excess off the bottom here so I don't get any problems from that way. Just take that off down there, make sure that's dry enough, and off that side there. Don't want any sort of bleed backs coming in and causing me a problem that way. I'm going to have enough problems worrying about this here, but hopefully we might get away with it. Alright, that's good. So far it's good. I'm going to just go and get the hairdryer, and now's the time to mute if you want to. Or of course if I can find where I put the hairdryer. My planning is bad as always, I just haven't got it ready. So hopefully we can find the plug. There we are. And off we go. Holding it high as usual. Okay, one classic mess up. I saw something, I thought I could get away with it and repair it, and I absolutely, totally blew it. So what do I do about this? Well, first off, I'm going to wait for it to dry before I proceed, and hopefully I can do something with it, of which, yeah, I do not know. Right, bear with me. This is going to be damage limitation tonight. Isn't it lovely when it all goes right? Oh dear oh Lord. Okay, let me have a little think on that. While I'm doing that, I'm going to come in the foreground with some more work, and I'm going to come in with a much louder green, a little bit so anyway, and start looking at some of these field structures. Now I want to put a cooler one, so I'm going to use a little bit of violet into there, ultramarine violet, so that's taking it away from this one. I just want to come through this area here, one sweep all the way down through the field. Right, so just take off some of that around there, and that gives us our second field, or our middle field. And then while we're doing that, I want to come in and suggest a little bit of light through this one here. Just going to mix it up a little bit. Maybe a little bit more yellow in there, make it a little fresher. I think there's a lot of, looks like a lot of buttercups in the field. It's got a lovely yellow hue to it. Going down through to what will be the edge of the bank. Just take that off to the edge. The reason this happened is that I saw each side there was some I didn't take off to the edge. Had I done that, it would not have been a problem. But I tried to repair it, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have just left it. But there you go. We live and we learn. Now I'm going to tap in some indigo into some of my greens and a little bit of raw sienna into that too, a bit more than that. That's probably a bit too much. Come over here, some more indigo. Just playing around with the greens and the yellows, trying to get a dark, dirty, greenish colour that I can come in with some of these mid values in here. Just under there and into here, like so, to this one. Preserve the top of my bridge and we'll leave the bottom of it for the moment. Just come in here like so. Alright, we'll see what happens with that. I'm going to drop in a little bit of light to some of these and lift some of that out and let some of this light come back in. And on this one too. Okay, we can always go back with extra darks later on. I'm just going to let that settle down. What can I do about this background? Well, let's just see where the chat is. I am going to, I don't know, I think I'm going to clean out this trough anyway for a kickoff and make a decision. It really wasn't expected to happen like that, and it did, so I've got to be very, very patient. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt, now if this goes wrong, I do apologise, it's going to be one of those that just goes wrong. And if it does, it does. So I'm going to put a bit of violet in, cobalt and some alizarin went in. I'm going to tap in a little bit of vermilion, probably a little too much, come back with some more blues. Trying to give myself something that's a little bit darker, and I'm going to get a bit more water to it. Let's see if we can't disguise some of this up through here and put some more clouds working through these marks like so. Let's just see how we go. So we're making this more of an evening time, aren't we, by default with these colours. I'm not overly worried about that. And some of them down, 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 down into this area here. Like so. Soften some of them. Very subtly. Bring some of them all the way through here. I'm trying to mask the cauliflowers that I created, is what I'm trying to do. I'm just going to gently tease out some of these. And then here. Not always a great recovery, but sometimes you can, and sometimes you just have to take it on the chin. Nearly messed up again because I picked up a little bit of indigo there and I just got enough of it out to not hurt. Take that through there. I'm looking to see what you're seeing. It's a bit heavy. I'm going to try and light some of the base up. Keep dipping into some clear water, washing out, taking it off into the rag. Just want to soften some of the top of this up while it's damp enough to allow me to do it. Taking a bit off the edge there. And working the paint. I don't like working the paper this heavy, I've got to say. Even though it's a strong enough paper to take the punishment, I just don't like overworking paper in this way, because it's just nice and fresh to have the paper just accept the paint and let it flow and let it settle and let it dry, and it's fresher to my mind. But when you start doing all of this that I'm doing with this, then it starts to really mark the paper, or can mark the paper, and create things that you don't really or didn't plan on happening in the first place. Just going to soften this in here, gently teasing on the edge and through there too. It's a little heavy there. Dabbing some out. It's going to give me a little bit of a blotchy look, but that actually doesn't worry me too much. Just trying to make the whole thing a believable cloud is the problem. Tap in a little bit more blue. Good or bad, that's going to have to probably remain pretty much as it is. Just going to lift a little bit out into them, because they have got to change. I can put trees in, I can do some things, but that's going to have to pretty much remain as it is. Alright, so how are we on the chat? No one's saying anything, everyone's rolling about laughing at my mess up, I guess, and I don't blame you the slightest. Time for a glug. Right. I don't know about making a better painting from the bad photo. We could just be trying to do a bad painting from a poor photo. So we shall see. We shall see, we shall see, we shall see. I've got to wait for that to dry now. So I'm going to come back in and start looking at the bank here on this river. I'm going to use some of the orange, very, very strong, but I'm going to mute that down with some there. Some of the indigo to make me a dirty colour, but I want to put in a little bit of Indian red into that. Warm it up a little bit more, like that. And let's come in, not with a strong amount to begin with, we can always come back with that. Let's just come in with a medium colour brown that we can take off and go around the edge of our bank that way, and through here. Likewise, we can take that off to there, take it up into the crack into the land there, and I'm not following exactly the same shape as the riverbank up there. I'm just going to come in and put my own bit of bank through here, and we'll come back in once that's dry and we'll create the extra bits that we need. There is quite a bit of tree stuff off the photograph or off my picture plane, but I'm going to bring some of that in here. It's going to help me out with the poor quality sky that I put in. Put a bit of yellow and a bit of that in there, a bit of violet. That's gone to a very dirty green, and it's a little bit too strong. Let's come in. The problem, I just go straight into a pile of fresh colour, which doesn't really help. I'm just going to come in, I'm going to put some light into some of this up here and let this come forward down into this area. We've got this bigger tree that's going to come across the whole thing, but for the moment I just want to put in what could be a tree and a shrub through here that's coming down into this area here, and let that dry out before we go back in and try and create the other tree that's beyond it. We may not, we're going to use that, but I think that could have been a bit fresher, and it's partly because of the pinks and the reds underneath. Okay, let's come back into the edge of this, and this is going to bleed a little bit, but I'm not too worried. It fuses somewhat. Just give me the grass top going through there, a little bit of grass into this area here, and not so much there, but just off the back there would help. like so. Okay, I want to get some distance hills in, so I need to get rid of that. Use a little bit of it maybe. A little bit of that red. A little bit more of the blue. Alright. Just come in and trying to look at what I need to think about. I need to think about some lovely light greens through there and there. For some of these trees. I'm going to leave those in there first, I think, before I come back and do anything else. Maybe even a little bit more lemon popping into one or two of those. Just really catching the sun. Right up to now, there's the oasts, and the trouble is I've changed the scale in the photo but not in my head, so I'm getting a little confused with things. Good evening, James. Nice of you to join us from Spain. No, I never give up. Never give up, even if it means tearing a paper up and starting afresh, but never give up. Right, and just think I can come in now with a bit of cad red, a little bit of Indian red, and just look at the tops. They need to be a lot lighter, so I'm going to use a bit of the orange just into the freshen up these oasts in the back here. And then just let them settle down. We've got the other roof through there. Okay. Just let them dry off and settle up, and hopefully we'll have a pair of those houses before the end of this. If not, I will cry. Right, okay. Back to this lovely hills in the back distance. So let's come in with a nice shape up the back there. And through the back over there. Using that negative space to cut in and create around some of these tree forms, and also down here in the field forms. So let's just bring that through. There's a big old tree that I've suggested there, but it's not a solid tree, so I'm going to come in, play around with some of that. I'm looking at these. I might be tempted, you know, I am tempted. I'm going to take that all the way up there, bring the whole of this vista that much closer at the hills, the whole 9 yards, like so. I think that might work. I might get away with quite a bit doing this. I might not, of course. I might wish I hadn't done it at all, but I think we could get away with it. I'm just changing the perspective on here just a little bit more. Take that through there. I wish I hadn't come all the way down with that now, but I don't think it'll let me. Oh, it might do. Might get away with it a little bit. Just tap that out. Take this all the way through the back of the oasts here. Like so. Okay, well, that's a little bit more believable, I think. I'll add a little bit more height to some of this. A few different trees and things that are poking up in the distance to give it a bit more form. Okay, gonna let that dry off now and see if we can't get the rest of this happening. So I want to put in a little bit of this darker green, murky green, just in here to suggest the base of this tree and the bases of one or two others. There's shrubs and trees in here. So let's just bring that one in, so in this one, and bring that field contour through there, and let's bring that down just here somewhere. I think we've got to bring it right, so all right. I'm going quiet because I'm really just trying to stop this getting any worse than it has done. We will be there. I'm sure it'll work out, but I'm far from that confident right now, gotta say. It just got away with me a little bit in there, and I've been playing catch up with it ever since. I need to put in just a suggestion of, so I don't forget, a tree or something here, and there are a few ones further back which I'm going to put in some of that grey-green colour, and I'm just going to suggest a few differences way over here. Once that's dry and I'm happy with that, I can take some up a little bit more and make something more of them. And I had put that tree up there, and I still might do that, but I'm not quite sure yet. You and your chores, Jim. Right, okay. No, I'm not knocking myself, Wendy. I just don't like it when I'm not getting up, when this is sort of one's getting away from me. And this one has proven to be a little bit of a pain, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to put a little bit of blue colour, just a faint blue with a little bit of red to it. It's way too much, I can tell. Just a little bit of that. Not a lot of pigment, just want to put in a suggestion of the water through there. Taking off the excess, I just want to stain the paper, nothing more. Okay. And here there is going to be a little bit of brick, and I'm going to put a little bit of red to that, and I'm going to come in through here with this colour on this bridge, so that we have got an obvious bridge form going on there, maybe a bit through there, and leave that to dry off, and we can come in and muck about with that in a little while. What I might just do with it is just tap in a little bit of blue, just to cool it down a little shade. That works to me. Take that all the way down through that underneath the bridge itself, and leave that to dry. Alright, I think that will work. I hope it will work. We shall see. Okay, now I've got to come in with some darks under the rim of the edge of this field here. So I want to come in and put in and suggest the edge of the turf has got a little bit of difference between it and the soil. And it does look a little bit yellower and a bit redder in certain ways. That's probably closer. I quite like that. Bring that down through some of these to the water's edge. Take it along. We can deepen it if we need to further in, but we shall see where we are first off. Okay. Trying to keep it fairly simple. Overcook it and it's just not going to work. A bit of warmth into some of that through that field. And a little bit up into the base of these trees here. Just bring them a little warmer, that brings them a little closer to us. Okay, we've certainly got a recession going on. What I haven't got is a lot of colour that I was looking for. I'm going to put in the darker base to this host as much as we can see. And again, this is another area that sort of got away from me a little bit, if I'm honest. I come in here with the dark side of the host roofs, and the same on this one. And then take that all the way down through there and let it get lost. When it comes to doing it, we're going to put some sort of a hedge through here just to lose the back end of there and take that through into there a little bit. So we're going to develop that in a moment. but I do need to look at the trees and the foliage that are going on at that point. The ultramarine blue now, change the different cool blues. Just come in here and just check into this one. Take that on up. Now I'm going to actually change my brush. I'm going to go for my lovely sword liner, which is just a lot of fun to play around with. And I just want to bring this up into here and just play around with some of these shades, because they're not all, the trees are not all fully leaved, so I'm going to make them quite dark for their trunks and just play around and then go back into them with other shapes. I'm not too sure what sort of trees these are. To be quite honest, at this state of the painting, I'm not that worried. I just want it to look okay, but we shall see. I'm just coming in, as I say, with the sword liner, and I'm just playing around with some of these shapes. There's a lot of water that I didn't catch. I'm just going to lift that off very, very quickly before it causes me a real problem. Sword liner is a big old brush, as you can see, and you get too much water running down in the base, it will run down the fibres and catch you out, and that very nearly did. So I'm just coming back in, and I'm going to come in with that shape. The shape was really working quite nicely before that, but never mind. I think that's going to be the way it's going tonight. I think it's going to be one of those. That's way too dark. Let's come in with some reds. A bit of dry paper would help, especially as I'm trying to put birds all over the place by splattering my brush. Right, let's just come back in again and see if we can't make this work. Just playing the sort of the shape and the form. It's actually got to become a lot closer. Well, it really actually is a lot closer if you think about it and you look at the photograph that's on that middle contour. So I'm actually going to bring the trunk down to this level now, which puts it onto a different contour, puts it back with this one, and we're going to change some of what's going on with this one now, so that we have two very similar tree shapes here, and I think that will work. Okay, hopefully I might get away with that. I just want to tap a little bit of that out there if I can get away with it. Let's break out some of those darks. Just come back in like that. Now when that dries up, I can go back in. I'm not going to keep working at it because it will just self-destruct, and if it doesn't, I most likely might. I'm going to bring this one up too. I'm going to put a little bit more green with this one, a slightly different tree. I'm going to put in a little bit of a different shape to it. Right, so just tap around some wispy ends to it. I want to get it a lot paler than I've got it, so I'm going to come in with just a little bit of neat lemon, just to fuse in the two, between the two. It's working quite well. And leave it like that, let that dry out, and go back in with some of the trunk on that one. This one, I'm going to put in some cobalt into there, I think. I'm going to put in a little bit of Indian yellow as well. Change the yellow this time completely. Okay. Right, now then, let us come back to reality. And I'm going to change the subject just a little bit. So, a few weeks ago now, I actually had an accident with my iPad. Really, so I've been really careful with it. I've had it 4 years, and I've never ever let it come into harm's way. And I took it with me when I walked the dogs one morning, and to get some really, I could see that from the house that there was some really spectacular clouds happening. I thought, I will take that with me and get some nice photos instead of just leaving it at home and taking a camera or some other device. I didn't, and I didn't realize that there was a bit of a crack in the holder, and it slipped out and hit the corner on the concrete, and that was the end of my walk. I was so upset, and there's nothing I could do about it. It had gone through the actual outside protector and crunched the actual corner of the glass too. So I've been learning to live with that, and getting on with it. And something happened in my bag on the way home yesterday. I have no idea quite what happened, but I created another distress crack. I suppose maybe that where it had damaged to begin with, it sort of just decided to, it was weaker and it caused a bit more of an issue. So yeah, but I was really happy that my insurance guy said, well, we'll claim for it, not a problem, and we'll get you another one. I thought it was really nice. I'm going to get another nice new state-of-the-art iPad, and that will make my life a lot happier and a lot easier. I'm going to bring that down through there while I've got that little slot there. I've lost the idea of doing the big tree. I don't think I really need it. I'm going to come in here with that colour and just play around with a few lovely edges with some of this nice raw sienna. This is Daniel Smith's raw sienna. Anyone who's interested, a bit of colour over into there. Coming down, let that bleed down. Nice, it's a nice, he does a nice range of colours. Okay, and I'm coming in with some darks when that's dry. I'm just going to leave that as is. Where are we? Your probability to repair mistake is amazing. I wish I could do the same. Well, I don't know if I've repaired it, but I think I sort of put over a very, very bad patch over it, Judy. But thank you very kindly for saying otherwise. Right, I'm going to wait for those trees and bits to dry out, and we will try and make something a bit more in those contours later on. I just want to come back and revisit some of this in here. The edge of this bank needs to be significantly darker down here. It's green, but it's in the shadows. We're going to put a deeper green in. I suppose I ought to go back to another brush. I'm going to go to a smaller round. That one will do. Wet that up. Come back in. Nice point on it. These are some of my... that's not a very good one. I'll put that one. I don't know why that's got in there. I've got some older, what I call cheaper ones. And then I've got my good ones, which I don't like being without these days, got to be said. Right, I'm just going to come in and tease around the edge of this bank. And again, like we've done in other pictures, we are going to be looking for those little negative statements that we can put into the water to suggest and sort of give rise to the light parts eating into the dark parts, as it were. So if you can remember what we've been doing from other paintings, then that's what I'm trying to recreate here a little bit. Just going to scratch in a little bit of heavier grass through here. And now on this is where I'm on about. You've got this light area here. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to come in and I'm going to suggest that there is sort of breaks into this grass as it disappears, then it will just be obliterated by the height of that. That's the sort of thing I'm on about, and you get to suggest that the grasses are there and growing in. I can see I've got a load of yellow paint all over my fingers, and if I'm not careful I will deposit that all over the painting. Right, let's just have a look back at where we're at now. Just going to come in through here and put some more in here. I would, maybe I'm sort of thinking that do I put in some representation of deeper shadows along the bank. Now I purposely haven't put too much here yet, so I'm going to put a bit of dark in there, a little bit of green dark into that, coming down the side of that bank. I'm going to make it a bit higher, like so, and into eating out into the river at that point, like that. Okay, look at some cerulean blue into that green. It will change the dynamic of the green quite significantly, but it can, all these blues, all these greens, all have loads of wonderful things to offer. So don't be frightened of mixing some up and seeing where it goes. And if you're doing it in your painting and you're not too sure what the outcome's going to be, then just get a little swatch of paper nearby you and just play around with that before you commence and commit yourself. There's nothing worse than putting it on there and wish you hadn't done so. Now I can work the positive space here by putting sort of suggested grasses going up the bank there and then going away. Now there's a lot of white flower on the top here. I have no idea what type of flower it is, and I'm not that bothered. I'm not going to be trying to recreate that. I'm just going to put in some soft edges to here, into that area, and bring that down so there's a little bit of differential. Got a bit wet. Let's come back in very quickly and just tap some other greens into that space. Now you see that immediately bled, and that's because that area was already pre-wetted. If I do it again, you'll get the same result. It will just want to flood wherever that paper is wetted. Okay, let's come in here and look at some of this dark into this shape here. Darker greens, I'm going to put in some ultramarine blue and some of our Indian yellow. So we get yet another green going on. I'm just going to come in here and be quite randomly scratching. In fact, I would like to do that with this brush. Just come back in and play around, because this is some sort of one of these, I don't know, berry prickly type plants. I have no idea what I just said there, but you know what I mean. It's one of those plants. I just want it to become sort of part of the foreground foliage. A bit of red in, not that much red, would have not been so good. But let's put some into this, give a bit of warmth, and that works very well. Green and red, as you well know, works as a great complementary to each other, and so that you can do an awful lot with that. I'm going to bring that coming through there, and a stark light and dark situation with this part of the river, and then just coming down to the ground. Now then, I've got a lot of spikes and fencing, but it's quite blurred, and I'm not going to try and do the negative. The negative space would be dark in here and leave them. I'm tempted to, I've got to say, but I've got to be very, very careful how I do that. Let's give it a go. If it goes wrong, please forgive me, but it was a case of trying. I'm just going to come around here first and foremost with the edge of the dark underneath this bridge. Kind of come with a bit more red as we come down. And I just realised that my paper's there. I thought I had all this to paint on. I don't. So maybe the idea of the fencing has just gone straight out of the window. I thought I had more paper to play with. Alright, let's just bring that down through there. Like that. So there's our bridge anyway. And I want to come in with some of this dark, with the reds. And let's come in underneath this bush here. Just playing around with creating sort of shrubbery and the bushes, a bit more blue. Working as fast as I can just to allow some of these colours to stay fresh and unmixed, but others to mix. That will just isolate my bridge there, take that way off to the edge as a dark. That's fair enough. Let that come this way. It does come all the way over, cascading over the bridge. We haven't done that, and I'm not going to bother with that. I just want to mix up some of this so that we've got lots of confusion with colour, and we can then play around with some of the shapes like this, coming down to this one here. As I said, the bridge is quite a, well, I'm assuming it is a bridge. I don't know if it's half a bridge, a whole bridge, or what. And going around at a few tens of miles on the train, you're not going to really sort of figure it out. So I'm going to leave that like that for a minute. What I do want to do is just soften some of the edge on that. Okay. And I'm going to bring a little bit of dark and light under here, under the bridge, a little bit cooler. I don't want it as dark as that, so I'm going to take some off and take that up into the edge. I've got to be careful, that could well still be very wet. I'm going to bleed straight into it. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful, like so. Just getting away with it. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that, and now I'm going to come in with a big dark statement. And under here with this darkness of the shadow underneath the bridge. I'm going to bring that all the way in there to support the bridge, like that. And take that all the way into there. Right, something like that. I think that just gives us that part there. If anything, I've probably got this a little bit too much bridge structure, so I'm going to see if I dare. Probably shouldn't do this, but and lift that off there. There's a little bit of repair job going on. I'm going to bring that to there now. Change that. Put that dark in at the bottom. Leave the green that I've just put in to dry up first, and then go back in with a few more colours just to break that. I think that just gives that a better look on that bridge at that point. Coming back into this information again here, and just build some of these little spots up around here, like so. And again on the other side. Like that. And we're going to look at a couple of lovely bluey yellow, greeny coloured shrubs out here. So I'm going to put these out. I want to break up some of this here, so I'm going to put in a little bit of a broken shrub through here, coming down to this part of the field, like so. Coming down into the field, isn't it? It's coming down into that area. I'm going to get a bit darker. Like that. Messes that up and makes it look okay, I think. Drop a little dark colour into the bases under here. That's it. Take one or two taps off this way. Now we've got something that's going over there. Now I can start going back and looking at some of our trees. So I'm going to use some of this, and I'm going to just suggest one or two darker areas. And it's still very wet. Look at that. That just shows you how damp that paper will stay a long, long time. You've got a lot of working time with some of that, so it's well worth considering. So I'm going to probably have to come back in with a hairdryer, I think, just to do a bit more. I'm going to come in with a few darker shapes down the oasts. Like that. Now I'm going to just quickly run over with the hairdryer. I think that's probably the best thing to do. Try it all off and then carry on for a finish. hopefully that'll be fine now. Okay. Fresh paper. I do go through some paper, I've got to say. Right. Slow, you say it's a slow plant. Okay. Not a problem. Darn thing. Alright, I'm only joking. Can I put a little bit of cobalt blue into that green? And I'm going to come up here with a bit of information and don't know, actually I don't know want to do that. Just come back in here with this one and just give this a little few suggested bits and pieces going on in this one. Like that. And we look at these other ones. This one here got a little bit wayward. We'll see what we can do with that one. Just going to scratch over a little bit of growth on this one. Just a bit, almost dry brush scumble across the top, just to leave and deposit a little bit of pigment in one or two places. And you can do that with any of these trees in that form. You can just come in and put a little bit of dark under, more, certainly a little bit more dark, quite a bit more dark as this comes down here, because there's nothing supporting that big pom-pom of tree on the top. So let's just come down and break that down into there, like so. And one or two bits just striking through the center and come up through. A bit dark in the center there. Where are we? A bit of red, a little bit of indigo, a bit more indigo. That's too much indigo. A bit of red, a bit of orange, just to take that down to a dark brown, really. Not too heavy because it's going to show up too much. So just gently suggest it coming in. This one I did get away with me quite a bit, didn't I? I had a lot of problems with this one, so let's just come back in and see how we can resurrect this to make it look more tree-like. We could have a lot of bush and shrub around the bottom of it, so the trunk is disappearing into a thicket, as it were. We can get away with that quite nicely. Let's just bring a little bit more information out on one or two of these branches. It's not a dead tree, so we have got to put a bit of green into it. So again, we're going to dry brush one or two areas, just gently scratch some over like so, just to give this a canopy. A bit dark in one or two of them, just to hide some of those trunks. You don't see the whole of the branches, so let's just lose one or two bits so we make this tree believable. It's also coming towards you, going away from you. It's not two-dimensional plane. And very much the same with this one, but I think this one's pretty much cast itself now. We're done with it. I'm tempted to thicken up the base here a little bit more than I've got, just to make it a bit more interesting. in the shape and take some of that scrub this way. Okay, now I also said that there are some tree type shrubby bushes further along down near to the yoast itself. They want to be cooler than some of this stuff, so I'm just going to put 1 or 2 in here, suggesting that that's what's covering up the oast down there. A bit more yellow and a little bit more green colour, but darker, you know, not as dark as this stuff, but darker than what's already there, and let that just become a little bit more suggestive. And that can come all the way along and suggest other things through this field, like another contour really into that field. That come all the way down past there. And it's only scratching a little line, it's not exactly doing that much. Again, you can put a little bit of something here, you can bring other little shrubs up and create another contour of trees and shrubs moving through there. And again through there. Just a little sweep of the brush is all it takes. Your brain will actually do all the rest I need it to do. Now this is going to be changed. This one I'm going to put this as a slightly darker tree going up into here. Maybe a little warmer. That would be interesting. Okay. Maybe a bit of green coming into this one too. A little bit of dry brush once more. Be careful you don't overdo this, because you will destroy your lovely brushes as quick as look at them. They don't like this sort of behaviour with their bristles, so you've got to be a little bit wary of that. One or two bit lighter green. Now, it's not the way I like. This is almost working like an oil painter, and I don't really like that, to be quite honest with you. But I'm actually just putting some almost neat pigment over some of these greens just to break them up and give them some light. Just in here too, just 1 or 2. Get away with it, but to me it's all, I don't know, it's almost not the essence of watercolour in a way. It does break up some of the darks a little bit more and gives a little bit more interest to the green. So I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to sort of apologise to it. It's just, it is what it is, and it would have been nice to not had to have done that, but we are where we are. Right, just going to give a little bit more form in here. Like so. So I'm going over, sort of rough over that lovely smooth paint, and I think it will work. Just bring it up into there, 1 or 2 bits, just soften some of them. Bit more water with some. Let them sort of blend and break and do what they want to do, mix. But keep some of them very, very sharp. That was the idea, these sharp marks. But then they sort of become a little bit lost and into themselves as they go further back this way. And you can then go back in with some orange and some blue. A bit more orange would be good. And let's come back into some of this dark down here. Again, just put some in and then let that just, with a bit more water, play around and blend and lose. Take that up to the edge, because I want that quite solid against the paper edge. And let that come this way. And if you want to put some darks in here in the forms of bushes or shrubs and marks, you can do that just as easily in this way. And just scratching around with the brush. You can do it with this brush, you can do it with the other brush that I had, the dagger type brush. It really doesn't make a lot of odds. The effect is very much similar. Okay, where are we time wise? We are getting late. 1:20. I'm not that bad actually. This could be quicker than normal, this one. Right, I'm going to come in with a few more green contour colours. So I'm going to come in here and mix some of these away to see what we've got. Some just nice broad marks. I'm actually using that dagger, and it's just giving me a lovely sort of broken edge form across these grasses. I'll take some through here too. And as the paint runs out, so does the brush start skipping. And I think that's quite good. Now, I mean, this to me, this is not, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing myself to the great man, and I wouldn't even dream of it. But, you know, Roland Hilder was very famous for doing a lot of the Kentish oaths and scenes, among other things. He did a lot more too. But he used a lot of rough paper, and one thing he sort of, you got all of this sort of like this running through his painting, broken ground and broken paint, where the paint's dragged through and creates this lovely mess up. You're not quite sure whether you're looking at a colour of the field, grasses, tufts, undulation, or just merely a broken brush mark. But it really does work very, very well. And he was absolutely king at that, I've got to say. And if any of you don't know who Roland Hilder is or was, then just go check him out on Google. There's enough reference to the great man, great watercolorist of his time. Anyway, there we go. I think anything can be improved. I think this is a great candidate for that statement. It's not the best piece. I'm not. Could have done better, I think, is what should have been on the school report. But there you go. I'm just going to put in a little bit of colour in through here on this bridge. Just going to soften that off so it's not so harsh. And going to come in with some of those greens that I spoke of under here, down into the water's edge just there. Okay, and I want to come in with a bit more dark, and I've gone and lost all my dark, so I'm going to use that. Bit of that in there, and a bit of that into there, a bit more of that into there, and let's just come in with that dark again there. I don't want it all the way down because it isn't all the way down. I want to change it to the warmer colour, so I'm going to put that in there like so, and just let that gently bleed down and become nothing at all. There you go. That just gives a little bit more dark to that area there. Do I need to do anything in the water? Probably not. I'm sort of thinking, do I put in a little bit of a reflection there? Not much, because the water is too far away, pretty much. You're not going to see too much of anything that's going on there. So probably the case is not to do too much more. Alright, with that then, I'm just going to add in some gouache highlights to a couple of places. And we're pretty much done. There you go, guys. An early night tonight. Not even made an hour and a half yet. I mean, normally a 2-hour demo. Right, I'm going to put in a nice light white part to our lovely oaths, and that's what makes them so iconic to the Kentish landscape. Like so. Alright. Now do I put anything else in? Right, yes I do. I want to put in some lighter fills. So I'm going to use some white. I'm going to tap a little bit of orange to that just to warm it up a bit. So the white becomes quite opaque. And I'm just going to suggest, I'm not going to, I don't know. I'll put a couple in here, like so. At the edge of that field, and then because of the light through here, I'm actually going to turn them to a darker value of orange through here. So it's going to be a little darker, a little dirtier, and the posts are going to just change like so. There you go. Hopefully I can get away with that. A little bit of warmth into there, to a couple of these. There we are. Alright, now do I put anywhere else? Do I need to put anything anywhere else? Probably not. I'm going to maybe put a little warm light. No, I'm not going to do that either. Do you know, I think I'm done. You know, argue, do I put some white flowers in there? I don't think I need to. I just think it is what it is. And we've got away and done quite a bit. So, with that all said and done, yeah, everything can be, I mean, what this painting has probably demonstrated is that, yes, I made some catastrophic cock-ups, excuse my language everybody, in this one. It's by far not my best painting, has to be said, so I'll put my hands up to that, but at the same time the recovery wasn't so bad. You know, we've got lovely quintessential English countryside, it's possible to say that this as a picture is better than the photograph, and that's what I was looking to do. Yeah, I would agree with that, Judy. Gotta say. But yeah, so yeah, I think that the idea behind tonight's video was to take a poor quality photo and try and enhance that in certain ways and make a better painting from it. Now, technically this painting could possibly have been a little better in one or two places. I'm sure it could. I did make one or two fundamental errors that, you know, I shouldn't have made, but I think the recovery wasn't that bad. We got away with quite a bit. If you look closely, you can see little issues in there, but I'm not totally unhappy with it, and I will sort of mark this one up as just think a little bit more before you do something. And I think that's the case with all of you. You know, when we are painting, you really got to concentrate on what it's about, what you're doing, and you know, planning is all about planning. And I think I ran straight into this one talking about this, talking about that, putting this up, taking that back, and I didn't really consider the way that I was going to do that, and I just went straight in and sort of changed the sky, changed this, changed that, and I think that sort of come back and bit me a little bit. But hey ho, I'm not that worried, because I think the net result wasn't that bad. I'm going to reveal it now. Let's take off the tape before we go any further and just see what we've got underneath. Alright, there you go. Now I know why that little mark there happened. There's a little bit of blue that spread through, and that's because I didn't do Wendy's idea of over the diagonals. I just did the outside, so the paint did bleed. That's my fault, not a problem. I can still frame it up with a little bit of a white edge, so it's not all is lost with that. Yeah, you know, it's okay. It's okay, and I'm thinking that, yeah, it will still sell. There's nothing that drastically wrong with it, you know, but it's just those little things that you see. I'm just going to put a little signature to it down in this corner out of the way. Just a little bit of colour there. Okay, that's done. So yeah, okay guys, well, thank you Joan. It was a bit of a save. It's a bit of a nightmare for a time, I can't tell you. I have a little glug and then we'll start winding up. Has anybody got any questions about tonight though, before we do start winding it off and finishing up? You know, anything, as I said just now, could be better, but I don't think it's the worst thing out. Cheers, James. I appreciate that. Yeah, to me, I just love oast houses, and although they exist all over the area in Kent and in Sussex, I feel that I have never photographed enough of them or sketched enough, and so many of them have been converted and don't look ordinary, and some very commercial like the Whitbread ones that just don't look right in terms of there's just too many of them. And it's getting little scenes like this, and that's why on the train you see them and you know you can't drive to get that scene, so invariably you just try and take a photograph through the train window. But it does when it doesn't work, and I think this is clearly one that didn't quite work, but hey ho, I tried to make something more positive from the Drury photo. So that's what I was doing. Now then, next Monday is going to be an oil colour. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do for it yet. I always say this to you, I don't know what I'm going to do until probably Saturday evening or Sunday. And thank you, Wendy, that's very kind. I nearly didn't, but I think we just got there in the end. We just crossed the line and got there. We just dragged the whole thing kicking and screaming over the line, but we got there. But yeah, I will, if anyone's got anything they would like to see painted in oil, please put it in the comment section below this video tomorrow when it's uploaded, or once YouTube have finished processing this video. It normally takes about overnight and half the next morning, but it will be there. And if you've got any thoughts that you'd like to see in a future video painted, whether it's a watercolor, whether it's acrylics or anything else, oils, any particular subject, then put them in the comment section. Let's have a look at those and we'll go from there. Colours are different between Kentish hosts and Sussex hosts. One's 10 in forward, slightly an inch effect. You know, I did not know that. James, you've taught me something tonight. Well, mine are Kentish ones, my friend. They are leaning forward. If they lean any more forward, they'll be drunken ones. Anyway, people, so yes, Monday night is oil night, and we'll figure out what we're going to be doing. And patrons, those of you who are with me, come on Sunday evening, we'll do something. I'm not sure whether it's oil or watercolor. I'll see. We'll have a look at that, and I might even play around on the live stream with some pastel pencils, not for the patrons, but maybe for Monday instead of an oil. I'm going to give that some thought. I can't get pastels out per se because I just don't have the room here. But I might be able to get a box of pastel pencils out and play around with those on a bit of board. We'll see. that could be a bit of fun, but it tends to be very, very slow, so may not be the best, but I'll give it some thought. Okay guys, well, I didn't make the 2 hours tonight, but I'm sure probably 18 out of 19 of you are quite relieved at that point. But there you go. Another time it's going to be 3 hours. So you some win, some you lose. But I think this happened very, very nicely. And the more I look at it, the more I'm not unhappy with it. It's a nice, colourful English pastoral scene. And it does what it says on the bottle. And it's certainly, in my opinion, better than the photograph. And even if I still can't figure out what the heck that bridge is or what it's doing, I'd love to figure out where I took the photograph now and try and figure out what that bridge is up to. But hey ho, who cares? It's done. I knew you would say yes to the pastel pencils, Wendy. I threw that one out there knowing that I'd be able to go wind you back in on that one. I knew you'd go for that. Anyway, people, right, well, it's Friday night. You've been let off out of class early, and thank you so much for each and every one of you who are supporting this, my live streams, my channels. Don't forget, my weekly video is always uploaded on a Friday morning. Ben, you finally got here. Thanks very much, mate. Had it been a longer one, you'd have seen a bit more of it, but it wasn't as long. But yeah. Nice to see you, Ben. Thank you very much. And, well, I'm gassing. I've been gassing for nearly 7 or 8 minutes now, because I finished this just before the half hour. So, I'm going to stop gassing, because you're all going to get fed up with me. And, any questions though? Is there any question relating to what we've done tonight that I haven't answered or that you would like answered? Get in that chat now. Let's have a look. Let's discuss it. Anything that anybody wants to know. I have no idea on how to make £1 million, so don't ask that question. We'd be here all night just debating it, and that'd probably take me half the night to work out how to spell a million. But there you go. So we won't talk about that one. But anything else related to the painting, then let's talk about it. Anyone else on there? There's 19 people, but I know there's not 19 in the chat. So who else that knows me? And this is the question. I don't mind you keeping quiet if you don't know me. But anybody out there who's watching this that doesn't normally chat but knows me, just pop a little, tap your name in and let's say hi. So I just know. But otherwise, yeah. Well, if no one's got any questions, and I'm not going to keep just rabbiting on, boring you all. So I'm probably going to wind up now. I'll leave the chat running for a little longer for people to say their goodbyes and whatever. If you had time, how would of... Sorry, what was that, Michael? I didn't quite catch what you're meaning there. Can you come back with that one and let me know? So I can't work out what you're asking me or what your statement is. So just say that one again, mate. Yeah, so anyway, I hope to see each and every one of you on Monday. And at 7 o'clock, as usual, for another installment of how probably not to paint a picture. No, how to paint a picture. And yeah. All right, people. Well, I'm going to bid each and every one of you farewell and do that. I think your painting is far nicer than the picture. It is, and that was, you know, Ben, that was really what this video was about. This evening was all about. Yeah, see you Monday, Derek. It was all about taking a poor quality photo, and this says you weren't here at the start, mate. So basically this photograph was taken on a speeding train out of Ashford somewhere towards, I don't know, towards London, but I don't know whereabouts it was. And on my phone trying to take pictures of those houses, and invariably you get up to take the picture and there's about you know, the train's moving so fast that the Oster's gone, and all you photograph is a load of blurred trees because the embankment's come right up to the window again. And the times I've done that, it's been crazy. But I got this one, but it wasn't that great, and I just thought it'd be nice to enhance the host houses, bring them out of their setting, bring them up closer, change one or two things about, and try and make a better painting from it. And that's the idea. Cheerio, James. Thanks very much, mate. Keep in touch. Let's have a chat about the shed and see what's going on. And yeah, I enjoyed that last video very much, mate. So I look forward to talking to you very soon on those subjects, and I'm sure many others. All right, everybody, take care, and I'll see you all on Monday, and I'll see all my patrons on Sunday. Thank you, Joan. That's very kind. Okay, everybody, take care. Bye. Yeah, cheers, James. I look forward to that, mate. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Don't know what I'm going to do yet. Might use you all as guinea pigs and do something with pastel pencils and see how it goes. And then we'll do one on Monday. I don't know. I'm just talking. We'll see. Take care all. Bye-bye.